I have a lot of ideas. It's quite an interesting thing. So I come from 1 to 2 to 3 to 4 to 5. And at the end, I said, well, I don't have enough time in 24 hours. So and sometimes these parts are not even connected to each other. So, and then I have to focus, and that's really something. I easily get lost.
Welcome to a new episode of Most Memorable Journeys. My guest today is the husband of somebody who has already been on my podcast, and I am sure she will be listening like a hawk when she gets to this episode. I am talking to Marcel Heim, who lives in Canada, in Alberta. I met together with them a few years ago, but he was born in Switzerland like me, and we have a lot in common. It's a very, very interesting road and an interesting life, how it started and what he's doing now. Let's start talking about it. Welcome to Most Memorable Journeys, Marcel.
Hi, Elizabeth. Thank you for having me.
I think you did the same, you have the same initial education like I do, a commercial apprenticeship as KV.
Yeah, that's true. So I did originally the normal Swiss way, So went to school, secondary school, commercial apprenticeship, and then went into business. So
Yeah.
that's the normal thing in Switzerland.
No, it's not the normal thing. The clever ones did the commercial apprenticeship, because the ones who didn't, like in my case, we didn't have any money that I would go to university. So the next best thing is a commercial apprenticeship, right?
Yeah, that's true. I had the possibility as well to go to the middle school or to the higher education school. And unfortunately, we were not really able to do it because of the money. And so my commercial apprenticeship was the next close thing to do. And I'm really happy that I did it because it's a very, very good base to start everything.
I absolutely agree. And I think it's much more practical. It's not just theory. You don't just go to school because you actually work somewhere and you see how a company functions.
Yeah, helped me a lot also for the future. So um, my personality is anyway. I'm getting bored very, very fast. Except with my wife, but that's another story. So it's really a thing. My job endurance was about 3 years. So in average, I was with a company 3 years, and then I usually had to go forward to another one because I get bored. And
Yeah.
that carried on till now. I'm 66 now, and it's still the case.
But I think there's nothing wrong with that. I think there is nothing worse than doing the same thing all your life. And I actually read somewhere about longevity that people who have changed in their lives and experienced different things are much less likely to get dementia or Alzheimer because there has been more activity in your brain.
Yeah, I think that's true because I see this as well now with what I did the last few years, and also especially also starting driving bus, the public transport in the Bow Valley. So it keeps you really on the track, and you have to learn a lot of things again, again, and again. And 5 years ago, I started studying AI, which also keeps you on track with your brain. So it's very, very interesting.
Yeah, and you wrote a book about that, but we will get to that later. We are still in Switzerland at this point.
Yeah. Yes.
So you met your wife, I think I read somewhere on a boat. Was it on a boat or something?
Yeah, that was actually a funny story because we went to a dance. I was under the impression it was a dance ship. My wife was under the impression it was a single ship. So anyway, we met each other on the lake of Lucerne and on this boat. And so I saw her already before we get into the boat. So I saw her and said, "Well, that's a really nice looking a lady." And she was also she's also a tall lady. So I'm also tall. I'm 183 centimeters. So she's a tall lady as well. I said, "Wow, that's a really interesting lady standing there." And so finally, it ended up that she was sitting next to me. I all of a sudden, she came to me and asked me, "Is this seat still vacant?" And I said, "Yes, of course, please have a seat." And so we were the last leaving the boat, and so the story started. So yeah.
She obviously noticed you too.
It looks like, yeah. So after 34 years, it's still ongoing.
So I read somewhere, I think it's in your bio, which made me laugh because it says she likes to travel and I didn't.
Oh yes, oh yes. That was a huge thing. So our first vacation was, how shall I say, it was quite an interesting part of our life. So because I traveled a lot for business, and business traveling has nothing to do with traveling when you are on holiday. So our first holiday, we went to Italy and to Rimini, and so we had some, and then we met with some friends in Venice. And Irene was under the impression that because we still had about 3 or 4 days, so she were under the impression that we are doing some different kind of loops then, so going to southern part of Austria, and these kind of areas, and I was under the impression I want to go home. So it was a very quiet ride home, actually, from Venice to our home in Lachen, because so she was angry, and I actually at the moment didn't know why. But then we stopped at Kur for a little snack, and because that was the first McDonald's at that time. So we went through the drive-through, we had something to eat, and then we went home. So it was not 5 words. We talked about each other from Venice to home. And yeah, so that was quite an experience. And she was thinking about, well, what shall I do with this guy? Because she was loving to travel. So the whole picture changed when we went the first time to the US. So it was kind of a guided tour, actually, because it was from at that time was from Teleclub. That was organized, and so everything had to do with movies, making movies. I'm still a big fan of movies, of the old movies, Hollywood time. And yeah, so we did it. And when we came back from that trip, I I said, "Well, I stay on the plane. I don't want to go back home." So I was so impressed about this country and what you can see there and the people. And then yeah, the next thing was then I said, well, next holiday you're going back to the US. And then we said, well, why going back to the US? Why not going to Canada? And then so that was the first time then in 1996 where we went. Irene and I went the first time to Canada.
You know, it's funny because in 1996, I found out in Canada that I'm pregnant. No, it's actually in 1995, but my daughter was born in 96. This is funny. So you have, it's the same age.
Okay.
What is it? Because I can understand, because I was fascinated when I went to the US for the first time, and I was a tour guide for quite a long time. Especially the west of the US fascinated me, and then I went to Canada, and again, it's what is it that makes us Swiss like it so much? Do you know?
You mean the US or Canada?
Both. I mean, it's
Well,
obviously it's not the same, but like the landscape and the nature is similar in the US
it's
and
quite.
in Canada.
Yeah, I completely agree. It's quite similar, but it's also very different because I think what for me was so impressive was the space, the room. So it was quite impressive to have these large landscapes and going to the Grand Canyon and all these parts of the regular tourist spots, of course. It was so impressive because these landscapes are just incredible. And then going even to Canada was the same thing. So especially when we also had the seeing Saskatchewan, which is really flat. We say you see your visitors coming 2 weeks up front, because it's so flat. So it's just amazing, and that was I think that's what impresses most of the Swiss people. And it's also interesting when we have discussion with friends in Switzerland. Um, it's the distances. So when they are coming to us, we say, "Well, we are doing just a little a little evening tour with you," and at the end, we did 500-600 kilometers. So it's very impressive, and I think that's something which really Europeans and especially Swiss, because Switzerland is so small. As an example, Switzerland is fitting between Calgary and Edmonton, so it's from Calgary to Edmonton, it's 3.5, 4 hours, and then you're through Switzerland.
Yeah, that's amazing. So you went to Canada, but that was just a holiday again, wasn't it? You didn't, did you know then that you would want to go back and stay, or when did you decide?
So you said 1996 you were pregnant. So it happens to us as well, but it was with the dog of Canada.
You see?
So so we went to Canada in 1996, the first or 1997, the first time, and then we fall in love with this country because of the size, of the space, of the mountains. It's huge because the difference. I always say difference between the mountains in Switzerland we also have and the mountains in Canada is that the mountains in the Alps are just taller, and they really they scratch on heaven, on the sky. But here in Canada, the mountains are really wide, so they are massive. So if you are in front of a mountain, they're just massive. Not at all. We have not a lot of 3,000-meter levels, sea level mountains. but they are just so impressive. And yeah, I think that was the thing. And in 1996, we said, well, once in our lifetime, we want to live in Canada. So that was kind of when we came back and said, that's just the country we want to be sometime.
And you both agreed. There was no more discussion about that. You both wanted to go.
Yes, of course. You can't do it by yourself, you know. Well, you can do it, but it was a discussion we had, and Irene was also agreed as well. And she is somebody. She always said, you know, so why shall I stay at the same place all my life? Where I was born. So I wanna see more. And so yeah, that's that. This bug from Irene catch me too, you know, caught me too, and so that was a discussion, of course, you know. So what are the impacts? And then we said, well, when we are retired, then we go. So the usual Swiss sentence, you know.
Yeah, and I think that's wrong because, well, it's not wrong. It's never too late, as we say. But I think you did the right thing. But it's not as easy as it sounds because we did. I can imagine that there's a lot involved. You need to have financial stability. And how did you decide? Did you decide from the beginning that you were going to go to Canmore, or was there another option? What made you go there? Or did you start from there?
So after 1996, we were always at least 2 weeks in Canada. So we went to different areas in Canada. We were in the east, we were in the west, we were in northern part. So we know Canada quite well. And there's another story where we crossed Canada 4 times with our trailer as well. So we knew quite well where we want to go, and Alberta at that time was also, or Cochrane was also at that time the place to go because of the work. So because at the end it ended up that we said we want to live our dreams now and not when we are 65. And so we went before, and then we had to look also for the economic stability, of course, as well. And yeah, so that was a decision. And the funny part actually is also when we drove by Cochrane in 1996. Irene said at that time already, "Oh, do you see that house down there in the corner? Um, you come up to a hill and then down, you know, and there's that house there. That's beautiful. I would love to live there." And can you imagine? In 2010, we lived in that house. So it's just crazy, you know, because we said Cochrane is so close to the national park, to the mountains. It's close to Calgary, and it's an optimal place to live. In the meantime, Cochrane is grown from 14,000 people to 45,000 people. So it's quite a bit a town, you know. So it's a beautiful place to be.
Well, what you said before about the house, that's in my personal development world. It's called manifesting. You see something and you manifest it.
Yeah, it's definitely the case. I believe in that too. So what you send out to the ether, it will come back sometime.
It will, but you have to know what to send out. And that's the big problem with most people. They don't know what they want.
Yeah, it's especially for me. It's sometimes difficult because and that's good part that I have Irene, because she pulls me back always on the reality, you know. So um, I as I said, you know, I'm getting bored pretty fast. So I have a lot of ideas. It's quite an interesting thing. So I come from one to two to three to four to five, and at the end I said, well, I don't have enough time in 24 hours. So it's and sometimes these parts are not even connected to each other. So and then I have to focus, and that's really something. I easily get lost, and because in the meantime, when I'm working on two or three things, there's already a fifth and sixth thing coming, you know. So that's really hard for me to focus on something.
Yeah.
And so it's good to have Irene, which brings me then back to reality. So that's
Yeah,
good.
she's very grounded. She's very down to
Oh,
earth. So you're a good
yeah.
combination.
Yeah.
You wrote a book. What made you, I mean, why did you write the book? That's the stupid question, but you wanted to share your knowledge because you had gathered a lot of knowledge about AI.
Yeah, I was always a good observer, actually. So I like to watch people. I like to watch society. I like to watch ourselves, how we react to different kind of situations. And so for me, after studying now over 5 years AI, so I said, well, um, I think I want to write a book about it, what I observe. And with 66, I have a little bit the life experience already. And so I brought it in as well, how I see it. And so it was always on my bucket list to write a book. But with all the other things I did in the meantime, so I didn't have the time. And then all of a sudden I said, no, it's now the time to realize one thing of my bucket list and write this book. And it's a book about um, our society in relationship of new systems of AI. That the title is soft, spoiled, and obsolete. So that means that we are the master of our own future. So if we accept everything, just AI brings us up or a system brings us up, then we get lost. So even these days, AI AI makes such a lot of mistakes, and a lot of people think that I take it for 100% sure, and so that's not correct, and you will lose. We as a society, we as human, will lose against these strong machines if we are not still very skeptical what we get out there, and also have an open eye and an open ear what's going on there. I love AI. I love it, I have to say it. But I don't take anything just as 100%. I always try to use my common sense, and I always check different kind of things as well.
Yeah, I think that's what we should do. And I always compare it to Google Translate because I used to, I'm a translator, and I used, when you don't know the language that you translate into, you cannot check because you don't know what it did. And it's exactly the same with AI. You have to know what you're doing. And then, of course, it's a great help. I love AI because, if you use it the right way, but what you put in. You put in the right stuff, and then you check what comes out. I think your book is spot on.
Yeah, I'm actually writing a second one now on AI, but that's still in the concept phase at the moment, or because my album came in my way. So I actually have the title already. That's the exit price. So that will be will be also based on my first book. It will be a kind of a little bit a more deeper going thing. So it's kind of if you are not able to leave the system, then you are not free. So that's kind of the
Is your book available on Amazon?
yeah. It's available on Amazon. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. So
We'll put it in the show notes. Now,
yeah.
you drive a bus. This is
Oh,
you both drive a bus, and you know, it's just we have so much in common when it comes to, because I was a tour guide, I was on a bus, I was dealing with people like you're dealing with people like me, and I think the most fascinating part of this is people watching.
oh yeah. I- it's kind of a social project.
It is, yes, yeah.
I have to say I'm really love what I'm doing. It's fantastic. It's so much fun. It's also sometimes not a lot of fun, but it's most of the time it's a lot of fun. If you observe people, especially tourists. I like the tourists as well. So yeah, it was interesting. So going a little bit back to my personality, you know. So let's say till we came to Canada, I was very focused on the career. So that means doing, you know, going up in the hierarchy, being executive, and then all these kind of things. And then all of a sudden, I recognized, is this really what life is all about? Making money, being showing outside you all this and this title and all these things. And for me, on a certain kind of point, I said, no, no, it's not me. I don't know. I was searching, and as I said, it was not really, or it was very hard for me to find myself. And then it started actually with driving school bus. So there I was doing my license and all these kind of things you need, because in Switzerland I never drove a bus. So and then Irene started working at this company in Banff, and then she asked, "Hey, that would be something for you as well." And so I said, "Yeah, let's try it." You know, I'm open for things like that, and it was the best decision ever. So it's just managing, handling the people well. Even as a manager, you know, you are dealing with people too, and you observe people, and so it's much more people in a bus, but it's really interesting to see how people all of a sudden get lost. You know, people you would never thought about that they get lost in a little town like Banff, you know, and all of a sudden they can't read anymore, they can't understand anymore. Just because they are on holiday, you know, and the other side, people who are very stressed, are very even on the holidays, they have so much stress because I need to do this now in the next few hours, and then the next few hours they have completely planned everything, and sometimes then when something goes wrong they are uh, pissed off, And so it's just amazing to watch how these different kind of cultures, different kind of people are reacting on different kind of situations.
That's a study of mankind. And, these people, when people are out of their comfort zone, they are in the most intelligent people, when they are out of their comfort zone, their brain doesn't work. They don't function. Have like tunnel vision and they don't know what they're doing. It's very, very interesting to watch.
Yeah, yeah.
But I believe that you, as a driver, and I know from Irene and from you, I am sure that you are a great asset to this company, because I'm sure you help people. You speak to people and you speak several languages.
Yeah, it makes the job, of course, easier. So when you speak a few languages, even if it's not really 100% okay, but if you can translate or you can help, and I was always my position in every position I did in my life, and I did several positions in my life. My belief was I'm a serviceman for my people. So I was sometimes I said, well, I'm not really a boss, so I'm here to help you that you can do your job the best. Something that really came over also to me as a bus driver. So I'm help where I can, where I'm allowed to, and I have a really good feedback and recommendations and all this kind of feedback as well. So it's beautiful to see how it works.
Course. And how do Swiss people react when they get on the bus and they talk and then they ask you something in Swiss English with a Swiss accent, and then you reply to them in Zurich German? In Zurich, how do they react?
It's funny their reaction, because when they are coming in and asking me about some tariffs, or where do I have to go, and things like that. In the meantime, I can really understand immediately this is German or this is Swiss, and then I start talking Swiss German with them, and they are sometimes even so surprised that they are continuing talking in English. So it's very funny, or some of the people are then so surprised that they have somebody talking Swiss German to them. They're just froze, and it's really fantastic to see how people react. Also with the German people, with the German tourists. So all of a sudden, here's somebody who's talking Swiss High German. And so they love it, and oh, then we can talk German. Oh, that's even better. So it's a good reaction, and it's so funny to see their faces and the reaction they have. It's great. It's really great.
Yeah, and we said before we started recording, humans are the same all over the world, and I think human connections are fascinating, and it's
Yeah.
fascinating to observe these stuffs. Now, let's talk about this album. I mean, come on, Marcel, you don't know how to sing and you don't know how to play an instrument. You have an album.
Yeah, it's fantastic. So I have since, yeah, I always say, so if I start singing, so the room is empty in 30 seconds. And and also, I tried to learn several instruments when I was a kid and juvenile. So, of course, Blockflöte, the flute. I start with that, and then what almost every Swiss kid is doing. and or did in the past, and guitar, accordion, piano. I tried everything. So at the end, I got a certificate that I'm really are not able to play. So, and I couldn't do it. And I had always some music and text in my mind. And especially now, since I'm driving, I have so many things popping up in my mind about. Um, I like country music. I have to say that I really like country music, and so I had so many songs in my head, lyrics in my head, and I couldn't do it because, yeah, I can't. I can't do the other important things. I can't write notes, nothing, So, and then when I started studying with AI, all of a sudden, so there popped up some platforms, and I started trying it out. I was not really impressed about it in the beginning, and so I put it on the side. And now, um, about a year ago, so I found the tool where I could really transform my ideas. It's not it's A lot of people think, so in AI you just give in a prompt. They say, or a sentence, they say, I want to have a song about this and this, and then you have an album at the end. That's not how, if you want to deliver something honest, then you want to deliver some quality, then it's not that way. You have to spend also really some time with it, and learn how it goes, how it doesn't go, and all these kind of things. And uh, it's not actually it's not the tool, it's the situations on the road which make that album, because it's just if I learn a piano, that's a tool as well. And so I had to learn AI that I could really bring up what my feeling is, what my lyrics are, what how it should sound, and all these kind of things. And that the base of all that is driving this bus in Bow Valley. That's the basis of everything.
So all these songs, all these lyrics come to your head while you're driving.
Uh, Most of the time, the lyrics are not called. The lyrics are actually. It's interesting that the process is I'm driving, and then all of a sudden something pops in my mind where I see something, and then it pops in my mind. And then what I'm doing on the next on a stop, I have 1 or 2 minutes. Then I write it down in my iPhone. That I don't forget it. I'm 66. Sometimes I forget something. So so I write it down so that I keep it, or some keywords or something like that. So that I keep it. What's it all about? And then when I'm off in my 30 minutes break or so, then I go through it, and then I start putting out some content. What could it be? So what could be the lyrics, the first lyrics? What could be? So already a little bit of structure. So that's how it works. And then when I'm home, and in the meantime, yeah, I'm 3/4 retired because I'm only drive 2 days a week. Um, so I have time then to really go through it and bring it down to paper, and do the lyrics. And sometimes that's also a little bit slow because I'm not a native English speaking person. So I need some help there too with which word is going with another one and all these kind of things. And then I really work on my lyrics. And when the lyrics are finished, which is sometimes a struggle because I want to make it too correct. Let's say it that way. I'm overthinking then sometimes a lot of things, and then yeah. So I sometimes I have to stop because I have to stop myself. Otherwise, that lyrics will never get out. And then when I have my lyrics, I think about how could it sound. What would be the sound I would love to that lyrics? That's all in my head, and then I start humming something or things like that. And think, yeah, let's try it. And the good thing is with the AI tool, then I can try it out. Like I said, that's too fast, that's too slow, that's too dark. I have to play around. It's actually almost the same thing what the musician is doing, So, but just with the help of a tool. And then at the end, when I say, "Well, that's exactly what I want to have," then that's the song I put in. That was the process of all that songs I did in my album.
Amazing, because I listened to some and it sounds really good. I mean, it's catchy, but I'm not sure anymore now. Is your album out or is it coming out?
It will be published on Spotify on July 3rd. So it will be available on July 4th. And yeah, so it will be on Spotify. It will be also on YouTube Music and different kind of platforms. Yeah.
So I had the privilege for to a preview. I'm like not supposed to share that with anybody at the moment. I believe.
No, you can, of course. So absolutely.
Listen, I think this is so fascinating. And I think it's also very, very inspiring because I'm also 65 and I also have to write down things because I forget. But what this is, people like us and many, many people, we are not done yet. I think, we may be of a certain age, but there are still so many things in our heads that we should do. And I think this is exactly what keeps us young, not young in our heads. You can't aging is a privilege, but acting old is optional.
Yeah, I completely agree. So realize your dreams. So I don't have to be a label anymore. I'm old enough to be honest. I'm old enough to go forward with my dreams. And if somebody is saying, "Oh, you are crazy," oh, that's nice. I love it. You know and it's no it's a decision to get old, and it's a decision to do nothing anymore. And of course I have days as well where I just sit in my chair and enjoy the sun, or the snow going down. and but it's still keep you going, and don't stop. It's 65 is not the end, it's the start, because all of a sudden you have time on your hands. I couldn't. Would I have done that with 30? No, definitely not, because I had other directions to go. But with 65, I don't have to prove anything anymore, and I wanna do what I like to do, and wanna follow my goals and my thinking. And I love that Irene is on my side and really helped me to realize all these things.
Yeah, I think this is exactly how it is. This is a perfect ending to this podcast episode. not to worry about what other people think and just realize your dreams and do whatever makes you happy. Thank you very much for being on Most Memorable Journeys, Marcel Heim.
If
Thank
you
you very
enjoy my
much for having me.
podcast, please like, share, and subscribe to my channel. You will find all the information in the show notes.